We're good?
We're good to go, live,
Perfect.
ready to go.
All right, cool. So first and foremost, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the warm welcome that everybody at Life at the Turn has given me. You guys have been a jolt of energy at a much needed time. So I appreciate the positive words and also the feedback. That's always very helpful. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Eric Birch. I've been in the golf space for better part of 30 years. I kind of found my way into golf very oddly through some clubs that were in my grandmother's basement. They belonged to my deceased grandfather at the time. And so I was a baseball player, like wannabe X Games athlete as a kid. And, I went to the range a few times with my grandmother and then ended up basically busting my knee up pretty good. And so I was looking for something low impact to do. I took pretty quickly to golf because I was a good baseball player. One thing led to another. I got into golf pretty heavy in my late teens. Got kind of derailed a little bit. I could have played in college, but got derailed. It was a good derailment. I met my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now, and she ended up conceiving our daughter, Haley. And actually, Haley was born on Masters Sunday, so we were up in the air about a middle name. So her middle name is Augusta. Anyway, that's I'm a golf junkie at heart. I follow a lot of the golf circles. If I wasn't playing, items that I've designed and kind of made through brands that I've been with, there's a lot of good product in the marketplace. I started in 98. My first business for myself as a club fitter with a group basically of locations called Discount Golf Wholesalers. I kind of ran a store for them for a short period of time. Kind of saw some shortcomings on that. I started to do a little club repair on the side, and then I started Perfection Golf. And I ran that from about late 98 or 99 until 2004. And at some point in 04, I started kind of farting around with ideas for how you could basically interchange a shaft. At that time, the UST Pro Force was very popular, Graphiloid Pro Light. Aldilla had some products in the marketplace that were very popular, but that was really the kind of forefront before custom fitting started to evolve and really become what it, a watered down version of what it is today. So I was just looking for a way to manage inventory at Perfection, and I ended up winning an award through the Professional Club Makers Society at the time, who, it was basically a group that it was kind of an online forum before there was an online forum, if you will. It was a group of kind of golf junkies really into club making. I won their Top Shop Award, which was a worldwide award, quite a accomplishment for me at the time, being a small business. And I went to Louisville to kind of accept the award. And I took some of the first article prototype Club Conex pieces down there, and Golfsmith and Golfworks fell in love with them. And so I kind of ended up finding myself to be, moving more from a club fitter and selling other people's products to innovating and making my own products. And that's kind of how I broke my teeth into engineering. And I ran that company with a partner for about 3 years. He left. It just wasn't really working out. And so I got thrown into the fire, and now I've got to really learn kind of engineering, manufacturing from the ground up. Fast forward a little bit from there, maybe at around 2012, I took a leap of faith and said, I'm having problems with manufacturers. We're having faulty parts in the marketplace. At that point, we were probably selling, 150,000 or so parts a year. And we had breakage when we shouldn't have had breakage. And so I said, I don't know anything about this CNC stuff, really, just the conceptual of, the axes. I never turned one on, never ran one. So I took like a little, 2-week class that basically taught you how to turn it on and not crash the machine. And within 6 months, I ended up conceiving the Unifit piece, which basically took the plurality of all the OEM adapters and made them universal. And I did that kind of just sitting at the machine. I didn't really sit down and reverse engineer everything. I just kind of kept refining it until it worked. So I'm a kind of guy just that when I get into something, and my wife was yelling at me about it last night. When I get into something, I'm in, and like, you're not going to pull me off of it until I figure it out. And so the Unifit's really what put Club Conex on the map. Everybody started to take notice. True Spec started running with it. A couple of the other large fitters started running with it. At that time, I had designed some pieces for Tour Edge, a couple other small OEMs that I can't really divulge who they were. And then, yeah, I had the Unifit out, and the group that owns True Spec, Mira Golf, and a whole bunch of other brands came to me and they said, "Hey, what do you think about selling this thing? We'll help you grow it." And ultimately, at that time, I didn't really know that they just kind of wanted to keep the technology for themselves. So I ended up selling, I think, 7 patents and the customer base to them. After about, I don't know, a year into the consultation agreement, they decided they didn't really want to do anything with it. They were going to keep it for themselves. And then they kind of pushed me over to spearhead the Mira acquisition, because Mira used to be up in Vancouver. And I don't know, many of you guys probably know Ted Cotter and Bill Holowati. They were basically running it out of Vancouver. And they had a small niche group of club fitters that were selling the product, but they kind of wanted to refresh the brand, make it more modern so it could compete with like a Strixon, if you will, bring everything from Canada to Scottsdale. And so I kind of took that head on. One of the coolest experiences I've ever had to this date in the golf industry was going and meeting the Mira family and spending about 10 days over in Himeji. And, that's kind of when my wheels started turning. Like, one of the things that I asked, and I thought it was a very good question at the time, although it wasn't well received, was if something happens to one of the members of the Mira family, because each is responsible for different facets of the manufacturing process, who picks it up? Like, this is so heavily dependent on hand finishing and specific individuals to create the flow, the workflow, and the quality of product. If something happens, where do you go? And so, the one thing with the Japanese craftsmen is they're somewhat stubborn. They're extremely meticulous, but they're old school in their principles. So they still do things really the old fashioned way. And obviously that's great for bespoke small article type stuff. But if you're trying to go mainstream, it's far more difficult, and it really leaves you kind of in a pickle if something happens. So I started to kind of talk to them about, would you guys ever consider like CNCing the forgings? What does that look like? I think you can save money. You can scale faster. And so ultimately it was like a little bit of a different direction. Didn't work, it wasn't going to be a long-term thing. I was like their interim executive VP. They had somebody else in mind, and I needed to take a little time off. And so fast forward the tape, I took a little time off, said, all right, well, I'm kind of refreshed. I'm ready to get back in the golf space. I applied a few places. I'm only high school educated and not really good because, that's what I got. And so anyway, nobody really wanted to hire me for jobs that I could probably do standing on my head. And so somebody said something to me pretty derogatory from one of the OEMs, and it kind of lit a fire under my ass. And so that's when I decided that I was going to move forward with New Level. And, the first year or two, a New Level, kind of same old stuff. This stuff's no good. It's crap. Nobody's going to play it. It's never going to be populating on tour. That was late 2017. And by, I don't know, late 2018, I probably had on any given week, 3 to 6 sets in play across the tours. And then ultimately, by chance, I met with Stephen Elker through his coach, and Stephen was coming off Korn Ferry. He was, obviously an elder statesman out there. You listen to that guy on the range hit about 6 balls, and I knew immediately because I used to be really good from a competitive standpoint as well. And so, you hear the sound, you see the compression and how simple his swing is. And my wheels got to turn, and it's like, okay, I know that Champions Tour players, because I was working with Ken Duke at the time, they don't get compensated a lot. I told everybody I knew involved with the company at that point, I was like, Steven is going to be a force on the Champions Tour. We got to figure out how to get with this guy. So we built a couple sets of irons for Steven. He fell in love with the original 902. He dumped his TaylorMade irons, put those in play. And then as we got through the product iteration, he ultimately landed on the 623s. And kind of the rest was history for New Level. He won the Schwab Cup, and then I ended up selling New Level, and kind of led me to some time that I needed to take off. A lot of people don't know, and I alluded to it in the email. I was pretty sick at the time. I had a very rare disease called valley fever, which I ran the company for almost a year when I had it, working 60-hour weeks, but it was give or take whether I could really walk effectively each day. In fact, it got so bad right before Mayo diagnosed it, if I would have waited another 2 weeks, they probably would have had to amputate my legs. And through complications with that and medication and like probably what ultimately ended up being some blood clotting and some, the oxygen in your blood not being proper, I ended up developing a brain bleed. This was after I sold the company, but it forced me to walk away. It forced me to walk entirely away from New Level, where I couldn't even do like product design and vendor sourcing and consult to the company anymore. So I came to a hard stop at that point. I took about a year and a half of doing nothing other than working on my health, trying to get into the gym, making sure everything was good. And then early last year, I was approached by LA Golf to do some consulting to them. I did a brief stint with TPT just to try to help them in North America. But LA Golf approached me, said, hey, look, we want to go direct to consumer. We see what you did with New Level. We think you might be a good fit. Can you help us? And so I did some iron designs for them, put them in line with the manufacturer, kind of gave them the recipe for how you go direct to consumer is the path of least resistance. Ultimately, just being candid, there was friction there, right? I'm kind of a, run my own ship type of guy, and Reed, super smart guy, very gifted, has been extremely successful, but he's much the same way. And there was just a hard time with us getting on the same page. So kind of left it with, I wish you guys the best. I think you'll do really well with these designs. At the time, they didn't like the designs, but we tested them at Golf Labs, and everything they were working on at the time for DeChambeau, my single piece forged with the tungsten in the back, which was, had the ability to change weight from 13 grams down to 2 grams. And also the T-structured cavity was really, really forgiving and performing extremely well in testing. And on a robot across 6 points on the face, it was more stable, provided better distance, more controllable spin, and at 33-degree loft on a 7-iron, it was flying within 0.8 yards of a 29-degree loft 7-iron. So, and that was a forged versus a 2-piece constructed 3D printed model, but that's neither here nor there. So after that, I was like, I don't know what I want to do here. I had all these ideas. I still have all these ideas. And frankly, I've always been handcuffed by not being able to get the right partners, not being able to get the right people. In terms of my ideology in the golf space, it's pretty simple. The consumer comes first. You have to make sure that whatever you're doing for them has an experience that's worthwhile that you would want for yourself. And that, the value proposition comes first. Most people that are within, and as educated as the people are there at Life at the Turn probably know, much like TVs or computers, you have a handful of factories that make golf clubs for everybody. So, you hear these loose terms coming around like, oh, open models or open sourcing or this. It's all open sourcing. And so there's very few factories anymore that just say, every time, especially with forgings, every time I design a club, I want to create a forge tool for that. That's it, frankly, it's asinine, because if the design doesn't work the first go, you have seven tools. You have to scrap all those tools and start from scratch. And, virtually it would be impossible for a large company or for a smaller company to compete in that space. So what I've done for the last 10 or 12 years is I'll do a tooling that I like, and I'll have a plethora of different options within that tool range. Because the reality of it is if you're talking about a player's cavity back, yeah, the bounce configuration is going to change, lead edge grind, trail edge grind, top line thickness, horizontal, vertical CG, all those things are controllable within one tooling. The things that typically stay pretty static are the size of the footprint and how much offset they have. So, those things typically don't change a lot. So here we are with Tanso. It's been up to speed. Sorry, I'm getting really long-winded.
I love it, and I know all of us do love. We love hearing the full story. So no, keep going.
Yeah. So here we are with Tanso. I took before I decided to launch this, I spent a lot of time working on what I thought the user experience needed to be. Our website has a ton of code, and it's right now, I'll be completely candid, it's still partially broken. And the reason I wanted to do that versus a Shopify store is because I wanted to make it easy. I wanted to have something that took people that were less educated and could kind of pinpoint them on a product pretty accurately. And it allows me to work on other aspects of the business to grow the brand versus sending in thousands of emails about the fitting. And typically speaking, what I found before, and I've had very good fitters and educated people in the golf space that have worked for me, is the email always comes up the ladder anyway. The question always comes up the ladder anyway. So I wanted to try to avoid that, and to some extent, hence the AI fitting tool. And in terms of the product, I kind of just wanted to pick up where I left off at New Level. I felt like after winning, some My Golf Spy awards, having Elker win a major championship, listening to thousands and thousands of customers' feedback, I kind of knew what worked. So I tend not to deviate too far from that. I feel the product line is really strong. I know none of you have seen it in person. I know there were some very early renditions on the website. Now you can see probably on the website a much better representation of what the visual quality of the product looks like. You can see pretty much all the geometry. I feel like we have adequate images of it. And really what I'm trying to do is just establish Tanso Golf and myself as like, hey, we're a small boutique manufacturer. We make really good stuff. I'm not out to make a quick buck. I could have been retired 3 times over already now. I just love it. I mean, I really do. When it gets in your blood and then you walk away from it, whether by choice or because you're forced to, it calls you. You know how it is. If you take 3 weeks off from just playing golf, it calls you. It just does. It's just got a unique, it's unique in the regard than anything else I've ever done in my life. Like, even I alluded to in the introduction email or the introduction in the chat, like quitting drinking was extremely easy for me. I never had to go to any meetings or anything, but it was something else that when I did it, I did it. And when I didn't, I didn't. But golf is totally different. I can't live without it. It's been such a big part of my life for so long. And to some extent, I feel like I owe a debt of gratitude to golf and to the golf community, because the harsh reality of it is I don't know what I would have done to provide for my family. I don't know what I would have done in terms of a career path. I really didn't have any other options. I wasn't educated. I didn't enjoy anything else. Sure, I probably, and I'm not frowning upon this in any way, because my deceased father was a tradesman, but like I could have been a tradesman. He made a good living, but he worked extremely hard, and I do too, but just in a different capacity. And so I felt like going into this, I turned 50 last year. I was like, look, man, you probably have 10 good years of road in front of you, hopefully, if you stay healthy. Let's build something really cool. Let's try to do what you can with it. If, where I'm at with it is if it looks like it's going to be full throttle, cool. If not, and it's just kind of super bespoke and it gives me something to do that I really enjoy, that's fine too. I haven't made a decision either way as to what it's going to be. I kind of wanted to see, like, what does the golf community think of it once it's out there? And for those that have been fortunate enough to hit the product thus far and have it firsthand in their hands, it's about what I expected. Typically speaking, past results predict future results. And I'm not saying I have like the blueprint, but for small manufacturers, maybe other than Mira, Artisan, some of these other guys that you guys all well know, there's very few small manufacturers that make a really good product. Some of them make stuff that's really inexpensive and very affordable, but the quality's lackluster. And conversely, some of them make stuff that's really, really expensive, like, and I won't name names, but then you put it on a launch monitor, you put it in a player's hands, and if you hit it 2 millimeters off the toe, you just lost a club and a half. So I try to walk the happy medium. It's always a performance-based business for me. It's always product first. And from there, I try to just say, you know what? I'm smart enough. I've been doing this long enough. I'll figure it out. So that's it in a nutshell. My back's broken, so I don't play golf anymore, hardly. So,
well, that's actually a really good transition point, because you just launched 3-4 days ago. I know it was an up and down launch experience, but let's get into the product a little. Tell us about the products that you're releasing right now. Tell us about the different irons that you have.
Sure. So the 249 MB is kind of more of what I would consider to be a modern muscle back. It has I call it an acoustic channel across the back. Most people that have been in the golf space for a while know that, like, feel is also related to sound, just like smell is, or taste is related to smell. So that kind of helps the club just sound better and feel better. It also gives me the opportunity to shift weight more towards the center of the golf club, as well as on the back flange. And it's an extremely forgiving muscle back. It has a really, really great look at address, where it's very confidence inspiring. In fact, super thin top line, not a lot of offset, but enough meat that if you hit it off center, it's still going to perform. It's predicated off of the same tooling as the 349 CB, so they mix and match seamlessly. The weights are the same, lofts are the same. I kept all the bounce specs the same. The biggest difference is the sole thickness and the top line thickness between the two. And between all three of the irons, there's a gradual step up. The sole thickness steps up 40 thousandths of an inch from the 249 to the 349, and then another 40 thousandths of an inch to the 449. So, in fact, you could mix all three, and I'm sure that players will. And that's the whole ideology. I think, Srixon has done a fantastic job with what they do with their irons, and so I've tried to kind of mirror that slightly. All the products are 1020 carbon steel.
Okay.
They're all single piece forged 3 times. That's those 2 irons. And then the 449 is kind of just more of it's kind of my take on a player's distance iron. Stronger lofts, wider sole. The sole's roughly 3/4 of an inch. A lot of mass lower on the club and behind the ball. Very easy to launch even at the stronger lofts. That thing feels incredible. And in terms of like the size footprint of that golf club, when you set it down, you're like, I haven't had anybody, even guys that are like +2s, +3s, that have looked at it that said, wow, I don't like it. It's got too much offset, or it's too big, or I don't like the shape. I mean, it's really good. I think that particular club there is going to open a lot of eyes.
I love the transition from the hosel into the leading edge. That's something that I'm not a good enough golfer that I should care about that, but I do. So
yeah,
that's just the truth of it. And speaking of which, I'm a
there
lefty,
you go. You're a
so
lefty.
I thoroughly appreciate that as a new company and a new brand. You have a left-handed option.
Those are going to be cool. Still very rough on the 359 CS, but the idea is I wanted to give players, the same opportunity that they had in the 249 MB and the 349 CB, but being that we're a smaller company and obviously you got to kind of aim towards the biggest part of the bullseye. Lefties has always been a challenge for me, even at new level. So I thought, well, I don't want to do a blade in a cavity, so let's kind of do a little throwback deal and let's bring back the combo. And I think those are going to be super cool. Ton of forgiveness, heel and toe on the long irons. They transition really well. They're still a little rough here in the samples that I have here, so I'm still kind of trying to refine the geometry a bit. But anytime you see like a representation, if I put anything live out there, whether it be social media or on our website particularly, you can be rest assured it's going to be very close to that. So I don't see a lot of changes. I have the next round of articles that should be here at the end of June, or I'm sorry, at the end of May. We may have to revise them one more time, in which case they probably wouldn't go into production until mid-June, which would be like August delivery to us and then probably August delivery to the lefties, unless we just go bananas selling them.
That's awesome. And I mean, it looks kind of T100-esque, which I like. I gained the T100s for a little while. So yeah, just a really sharp looking iron. And of course you have wedges as well.
Yeah, the wedges are great. I have 4 grinds now, but I've only put out 3 grinds on the website. The M grind is a softened version of a grind that I did a bunch of hand grinds on, which was really popular with some of the tour players that I was working with at New Level. And I still grind all my wedges that way here now. Limited testing on the T grind. So the M grind is like a more, I call it a retail ready version of that. Not nearly as aggressive as heel relief as the T, which will probably populate down the road. And then, the M grind will come 54, 56, 58, and 60. So it's super versatile, obviously, around the greens if you need to open the face and, kind of gives you a bounce when you need it, none when you don't. And then there's a K grind, which is a little wider sole, kind of works a little bit better for, people that are not as comfortable opening the face or tend to play in soft conditions or maybe get a little steeper. And then, of course, the F grind, which is kind of your one size fits all, typically going to work really well. So the K comes 56 and 58. I didn't do it in 60 because typically most players, unless it's a low bounce K variation, which is too much for us now, but most players in kind of the mid to high bounce K varieties that are in the market, they typically are usually scared of a 60 anyway. So I just decided to do 56 and 58 in that. And then the F grind comes 48 through 54. And then at some point, depending on how product lines evolve in the future, if there's a need for it, I'll probably add a 46.
Okay.
But I don't see a need for it at the moment. And then just really quickly, I can kind of give you, I'll give you guys a sneak peek at some stuff.
Love to see it.
So this is something I'm working on here. 2-piece constructed utility with removable hosel.
Very nice.
Still needs a bunch of work. It's got some, I'll kind of give you a little bit. I'm not going to really, don't want to tell you the name or anything, but so that's that. We'll see how that transforms. Probably shouldn't do this because you guys are probably going to go gaga over this. I don't know what I'm going to do with this here now, but I'll show you. This is, I don't know.
A life at the turn exclusive.
I don't know how well you can see this T grind, but you can see it's
that looks amazing.
Triple relief. So, blunted front edge, kind of M-type crescent through here, but from there you can really see how much relief is on the toe side and trail edge and how much relief is on the heel. It almost blends damn near into the center of the hosel. And so, albeit this is 12 degrees of bounce and a 60 on the center of the sole, But if you fan it wide open, you can literally probably flop it off of a cart path. So this is a grind that I've been working with for several years. I have it on my own personal wedges, and it's done really well. Done really, really well in testing. And then I don't know if I'm going to do these or not, but
It's
I
a
got a
different
few
finish,
sets
isn't
coming.
it?
So I got a few sets coming. You saw these on the post.
Yeah.
I got a handful of sets of each coming in this copper. I'm going to call it Pretty Penny. I just think it's a cool name.
Yeah.
So that's going to be extremely limited on those. Aside from that, the other option that is in development right now, that's a more user-friendly option. And I might have sent actually an image of that to Jason. I think I did actually, the 559 Lux. So the 559 Lux is a two-piece constructed hollow body iron, more game improvement. But along the lines of everything I do, it's not going to be super chunky. It's not going to have a ton of offset. Little thicker top line, wider sole. It's going to be that sole diameter is probably going to be closer to 0.83. Top line will be probably give or take. It depends how much trail relief I put on the top line, but probably going to be right around 0.29, which is pretty thick for us, but very, very solid in terms of the performance that I've seen thus far. And I think that will transition nicely with the utility iron once both are available, where some people will want the utility because they may be cut off at the 6 or what have you. So those are all the products kind of in the pipeline. And so probably will start to surface. Some of them maybe late 26, but probably spring 27. The whole goal was with Tanso was, try to get a little bit of buzz, get the name out there. We'll do a pre-release. Inventory is really shaky this time of year because you're getting a late start. Typically speaking, if you want to have delivery in June, you probably have to have the POs in like before they close for Chinese New Year. And so we didn't. Luckily, I have a tenured relationship with our vendor. And so I was able to kind of be like, hey, look, we're not going to, run you crazy here. We'll just do a small release and we'll see how it goes from there. And it'll better allow us to better forecast what we need moving forward into the latter part of 26 and early 27.
Awesome. Thank you for the sneak peeks. I know they look amazing. Okay. Speaking of Jason, he had the first question in the thread. So I see Tanso Golf is now based in Des Moines.
Des Moines.
Des Moines.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to blame that on my Italian or my German here. So
I like the way you said it better.
Yeah. As compared to when you founded New Level Golf in Scottsdale, was that move more centered around health, or was it more a golf-related reason? Do you think it could have any negative effects on anything golf-related not being in the Scottsdale area?
That's a really good question. One, it was predicated on, it was more predicated on health. Also, some extent, kind of cost of living to a degree. One of the things is my mom's a little older, and so I don't know like how long she has on her own. And when we were in Arizona, most people that may or may not know, they don't have like basements there. Everything is incredibly expensive in the Scottsdale market. We had about a 2,200 square foot home. It was a beautiful home, but the problem is it just was useful for us, but if my mom had to join us, it would end up being way too small. And so I traveled to Iowa. I have a good friend of mine that I met in Scottsdale. He went to University of Iowa. I came here last summer to play in a golf tournament for seniors because I had just turned 50. That was another reason. Most of this senior AM stuff across the U.S. is 55 instead of 50, and I still do have aspirations to play competitively. And so I came here, and I traveled to Illinois last summer. Shit, I don't know, 6 or 7 times, and I thought, you know what, I can probably deal with a little bit of winter more so than I can the 100 days in a row of 100-degree heat, particularly given the past issues with valley fever. So that's that aspect of it. On the side of golf, yes, I totally tend to concur with Jason. I think there may be, and I'm already running into, not having the people and resources that I need from a work pool standpoint to find the club makers that it will require to scale this thing the way that I want to. And so I'm not 100% sure how I'll attack that long term. But it's also tough, I think, to pull people out of roles that they're more comfortable with when you're a brand new company. I ran into the same thing at new levels. So I think once the company starts to gain some momentum, once you have social proof and credibility, then it becomes a little bit easier. I don't really plan to do like any type of walk-in traffic. It just, for me, it takes a lot away from the big picture. I love fitting people, but I have to be a realist to say that, like, if you have 6 fittings a day, I mean, that's 12 hours. And
Yeah.
it's just, you're getting the same margin theoretically that you're getting if you sell it online. And so for me, there is no value add to having like a walk-in center similar to like what you would have at like, my former company or like PXG. Not at this point anyhow. Once I can find the proper staffing, I'm a if it makes sense guy. Like, and so for me, I'm not scared to spend money, but I'm not going to throw it away and pay somebody that's a $50,000 a year club maker 150 just to pluck them. I'd rather just do the work. I love building golf clubs. I really do. And
Yeah.
that was another aspect of of trying to leverage this AI with the website. I felt like the more that I could take off my plate, the more that I could get on the line and get back there and stay with the product. Because as a founder of a company, who knows better than you? If you're not putting the ball in the best player's hand at the moment of truth, then you're basically setting yourself up for failure. And so, with the clubs that I've already built so far, I've been able to spot some deficiencies that need to be taken care of and addressed immediately, and they have and they will be. But unfortunately, for the last 5 days, I've gotten completely sidetracked with like, let me fight the fires of this website, as opposed to getting on with all the other things I need to do, infrastructure, so on and so forth. So, great question though.
Yeah, it's I can only imagine. Ben has this question. As the brand takes root and grows, are there plans to expand shaft and grip offerings?
Yes, without going into specific details, our arrangement with True Temper is for a kind of a short period of time to just see how it goes. I think as things progress, that opportunity definitely exists. The drawback is a lot of the smaller companies tend to work with parallel tip shafts, so you only have one SKU for the shafts,
Yeah.
whereas as obviously taper, there's 7 or more. In our instance, 7. So, part of the problem becomes also storage. A lot of the issue is freight, given, where we're at as a society with this global oil thing that's going on and so on and so forth. So we're kind of in a holding pattern on that. But yeah, I definitely love the KBS product, Mitsubishi, Nippon. I've, done a lot of builds with that stuff in the past and think very highly of it.
Awesome. You kind of already answered this one, but Jason had a follow-up. Is there a long-term plan to add driving irons and woods, or will you just stick with irons and wedges?
Driving iron, yes. Hot hybrid, potentially. I do have a driver that I developed, but never brought to market. Um, we'll see. That's a
Completely
that's
different
too.
animal.
It is. That's too snazzy of a market for me. It's like too marketing driven and too hype driven, and it just I don't think that a small brand can effectively penetrate that market. I think they can make a driver that's that's performs as well as the big names, but I don't think that they can penetrate market share. To me, that's a that's a relationship with the golfer that is a little bit different than irons. I think in my experience, golfers are willing to branch out more with irons and wedges, even than they are with putters or metal woods.
Yeah.
So probably not, truthfully, probably not.
It's yeah. I mean, think it's you have the big brands that kind of own that market, and we've seen time and time again solid lesser price drivers, but there's usually something in them that always lends people to go to the bigger brands. Whereas
Yeah.
irons, for one reason or another, people are definitely a lot more uh, willing to branch out. Okay, and you do sell. So, say for example, Coulter brings up this situation. Say I want to play the Mitsubishi MMTs in my irons.
Mhm.
Is it best for me to just order heads only? Because you do offer that option, right? And
Yeah,
then
you
or
can.
source the shafts myself.
Yeah, you can purchase head only right off of the website. You can purchase individual heads. You can configure combo sets. So yeah, you can do that. At some point, we may offer the service where you can send us the shafts and we do the assembly, but that gets a little tricky with product that's in transit. It's like,
Yeah.
at what point do we become responsible for it? We did that for a bit at New Level, and it was just somewhat convoluted. So
Mm.
that would be my only concern with that. But there's enough qualified builders. Typically speaking, when we've done that in the past, if somebody's like, "Hey, I'm in XYZ market. Do you know anybody here that's good?" We'll put them in touch with somebody that's not going to gouge them and that's going to do a fantastic job of their builds.
And as you said, club building's fun. It just there's something a little bit relaxing, just methodical about doing club building. So I know we have a lot of different club builders. I know John and Mark, who are actually here. They did pick up the heads only on your pre-sale,
Well, thank you
which
for that.
I think is something we should have mentioned. Right now, it's May 5th and going until the end of the month. So June 1st, you're offering 30% off, correct?
Yeah, and that was kind of not by design. Sorry, I keep fidgeting in my chair. It's because of my
I
back.
do the same thing. It's all good. I've been
The
sitting in a
not
chair
by
for 2
design at
hours.
all. So most of you guys were to the website before it launched and saw that it was like a tiered discount system. And then, long story short, what ended up happening is everybody was supposed to have one code, and it was basically a player code that followed them around. So if you went in and you did a cart and then you repurposed the cart with something else, it was supposed to update and essentially follow you around. And then the player code was also dual purpose. We could track a player with one code as opposed to saying, well, he bought in May 1st in 2026 and 2028. You're looking up order numbers. We just look up the dude's player code and it pulls everything up. Well,
Right.
when you leverage AI, you hear these horror stories about it's going to take over the world. It's deceitful. It's manipulative. I've experienced that firsthand. And so what ended up happening is in all the code test and development and even early in production, because I uploaded the site late at night one night when I knew nobody'd be on it and tested everything worked fine. And then behind the scenes, when I'm logged out, this agent started freaking unwiring stuff and
Mm.
rewiring stuff. And so it was minting multiple codes for a player in the background. And so it broke. And so I had to firefight all day, and I'm like, okay, how do I get something fixed? And then I said, you know what? This is enough of an inconvenience for all the customers that went there. I'm just going to make it easy until it gets figured out. No code, 30% off, just freewheel it. I think it's also for me a great way to seed product in the marketplace. I'm hopeful that the orders will start to pick up, but there's still a little bit of development and fixing some of the code that needs to be done. But at the end of the day, I'm a huge believer, and I've always been, is like, look, if you're sincere and you treat people right and you're trying to put your best foot forward each day, it might not be today or tomorrow, but eventually it takes care of itself. And so that's always been my thing. It's like, I'm not the flashiest guy. I'm not the most educated guy. I'm going to try to do exactly what I say I'm going to do. And if I'm unable to do it at that moment, I can promise you I'll kill myself trying. And so, the website is a testament to that. I think, my previous efforts at Club Conex and New Level, kind of the same thing. And to me, I just try to do things the way that I think that they should be done. And the way that I would like them presented to me is transparency goes a long way. Like if you're sitting here from your ivory tower or wherever that might be saying, oh no, everything's perfect, it's working fine, and behind the scenes is double charging people, triple emailing people, like that was a whole nother thing. I had to send personal emails because people that unsubscribed from the list, the agent, and you can see it's unsubscribed. It technically is impossible to be able to send this person an email. And this AI agent was like spamming people that were unsubscribed. And the reason why that's a big deal is because could start crawling up your, hind quarters, and it's like $50,000 per occurrence. And so, you turn those things off, and like anything, you expect everything to be good. And to many regards, I think for those people that think that it's the future, it probably is, but the leash is already off of it, and it's a problem. Like you can't, I'll liken it to this. If you went to an auto mechanic and your auto mechanic said, hey Jamie, your car's fine, you and your family are safe to travel, I know you have to drive 500 miles today, everything is good to go, and it's a very reputable mechanic, 5-star mechanic, is tens of thousands of reviews. And then you hit the road, you blow a tire out, your car flips, and something, bad happens, God forbid. That's what this situation was like. And so, trying to get in front of it in real time while it's moving, that's like, that's like going 100 miles an hour down a hill with no helmet. And so, we're in front of it now, best that I can be, and continue to evolve. So like without having, the relationships like that I've had so far with you guys, I don't know that I would have known. One of your forum members, it might have been Sean, actually sent me an email or sent me a message and said, hey dude, I'm trying to like get these things to ship to Canada, and it's not going. I can't get Canada on the drop down. Do you know how many times I tested that? It's like, wait a minute, it's not going to go to Canada. Like, of course I need to know that stuff needs to ship outside of the United States. I mean, at my former company, one of our biggest clients was freaking in Korea. We were doing like $500,000 a year in Korea. And now all of a sudden this thing it did it again this morning. It was working fine. And then I went on there and I was like, you know what? I'm going to run my own card. And then I went in and I put the zip code in for where I live in West Des Moines. And it said, we cannot ship to the Virgin Islands. I said, what? It's not the Virgin Islands, dude. It's Iowa. Like, so these are the little nuances that like I'm up against right now. I'm extremely thankful that the company has even gotten to this point, because if I rewind the tape several years ago when I was sick, I didn't even know if this would ever be an option again. So, I think the transparency is very important. And so, because with transparency comes patience, right? And so honesty is always the best policy. And so with me, that's what you get. Sometimes it's ugly, right? But you can rest assured that, I'm not going to sit back and try to connive my way through life. I've never been that way. So, and especially in the golf business, it's a huge, small circle. And I found that like you can carry your head high, look in the mirror and walk into many, many rooms if you just are a stand-up guy. So that's what I try to be.
Exactly. No, we all genuinely appreciate, and we appreciate you interacting within our community. It's been a lot of fun, and that thread has been easily one of the hottest threads that we've had for the last while. And Jason did pick up the 449s and a 48 degree, and Sean is ordering his today. And
if he can get Canada on the drop down, he is.
Fingers crossed. And we're gonna tell Coulter that he needs to build his own set, so he might have to jump on that bandwagon pretty soon here. I personally love that the guys, for some of them, have actually done the heads only. Because I'm really excited to see their builds. I'm excited to Coulter, I've got to find some things to sell to fund my purchase. I knew I wanted these now, so I seriously do. But yeah, I love seeing the builds. I mean, the guys are great at doing them. They do a really good job of chronicling and journaling their builds throughout the community. So it's going to be a really fun follow, and I'm really excited for to see some of the more lefty pictures, because I can't see how I don't end up with playing a set at some point in time in the future. And it's just really cool to be part of this early conversation with you and get to know the ins and outs of the brand, and see where you can take things over the next 6, 8 months, a year, 10 years. And like you said, it's exciting for us.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's like anything you ever do. Sorry, adjusting again. It's, you might take the same trip from point A to point B, the same destination, but the journey for some reason always seems different. And even though I've been down this road before, this feels very different in many good ways. And there's been a few things that I thought were going to make life a lot easier that have presented themselves that have made it more challenging. If I've learned anything from this experience, it's that all the self-reflection and all the things I was doing during the time frame that I spent trying to get myself healthy are really working, because the old me would have lost my shit, for lack of a better term. I hope that doesn't offend anybody.
No,
5 times over already, because I honestly probably in the last 5 days have worked at least 55 or 60 hours, if not more, probably closer to 70. And it's one thing to put the work in if you're building clubs, it's flowing, it's enjoyable. But that was like basically 70 hours, if you will, of swimming upstream with a freaking lead vest instead of a life jacket. And so it's a testament. I think what I learned about that is it's a testament to how bad I really want it. And sometimes, you can want something really bad and then it just kind of moves a little further into the distance. So I'm just going to try to equally exhibit patience along this whole process. I'm going to let this thing just kind of evolve. I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and knowing, and then in the back of my head, my intentions are pure. The product is pure, and we'll see what happens. Will it be bigger than, some of the other brands, bigger than what I've done in the past? Yeah, I mean, that's the anticipation. But if it's not, will I consider it a failure? Not at all. I mean, this is what I do it for. Things like this, get to know people, let them know what I'm all about, so that like, hey, down the road, when 20 years down the road, whether you love the clubs or not, if my name surfaces, you'll say, you know what, he's a decent guy, and that's what's important. Not, hey, let me sit behind the scenes and let me cast this web out there of what I can and can't do and what the products are and aren't, and then just kind of remove myself from the situation. And you guys can keep guessing who I am or what I'm about. I'm not like that. I've always been kind of an open book. Like if you want to know, ask. I'll tell you. May not like the answer all the time, but I'll tell you. And so, I think the biggest thing that I want to take from this, if nothing else, is to just do it the right way, or at least try to the best of my ability, and do it to be something that I'm personally proud of, right? I think with my former company, I look back at it and I say, man, like I was so flying a million miles an hour. I didn't even really realize what was going on at the time. I mean, when I started it, we were selling to like 200 retailers. I had no desire to do direct to consumer. Obviously, building clubs was a huge part of my life, but it's obviously a big undertaking too. We were producing, you know, hundreds of orders easily a month, and we were right on the cusp of, I don't know doing how many, but it was not unusual for us to build 400 golf clubs in a day with a small staff. And that's a lot of golf clubs for a small company. And so,
Definitely.
you know, everything was moving so fast, and I kind of got cast into it. I wanted kind of this 6 months period from, you know, or 7-month period from launch to 2027 to kind of just, I don't want to say go slow, like take some sales here, you take some sales there. You're not kind of pressed, because I want to refine the process so that when it's time to go 100 miles an hour, I know we can do it, and I know we'll be able to do it well. And so if that doesn't evolve into that, then what I'll do is I'll just pull back the reins. Like, you know, if I gotta close up shop for a month, that's what I'll do. I'll never put money in front of doing the right thing. And so that's the right way to run a business. And so for me, I think I'm going to learn a lot about myself, about the brand, about what the limitations are of some of the systems that I've implemented, which, you know, frankly, were a big part of this thing. If these systems that have been implemented can't do their job, I need to rethink this whole thing, because, you know, it just won't be able to scale with the budget.
Potential demand.
Yeah, with the budgets and the backing that I have. So we'll see how it goes. It's gonna be a fun ride.
I have two more questions for you. One,
Yeah.
and I should have asked this off the hop. Where did the name come from?
Oh yeah, so that's Tanso means carbon in Japanese. And
Okay.
so I kind of was like thinking of names. I designed the logo before I came up with the name. And that's actually the same thing I did at New Level too, is I just kind of started drawing, and then something hits me, and then I try to find the name after. And so I kind of drew the TG logo. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then I started trying to think of names, and I couldn't think of anything that stuck. I had, when I originally kind of started working on the business plan for what this looks like, I was going to use the name Surge.
Okay.
But then I started thinking, I don't know, that kind of sounds cheap. And so, and you know, so anyway, Tanso means carbon in Japanese. I thought, wow, that's a pretty cool play, you know, because the irons are primarily carbon steel. I thought it paid homage to, like, you know, the craftsman, and how kind of forged irons got their rooting. And so I decided to run with it.
Love it. And the next question, how many are you working alone? Do you have other people that are working with you? How big is Tanso at the moment?
So currently it's myself, and then I employ a couple of contractors. And what I'll end up being, hopefully by the time we're operational, I'm hopeful that it'll be myself and 3 to 4 others. The business plan really calls for 8 total employees by the end of 2027. I have had a very difficult time finding people here that fit the bill in Iowa. I thought that I had a couple people recruited to move here that I thought would be able to hit the ground running. I'm actually meeting here probably in the next couple weeks with an individual from Michigan that could be a really good fit. And then from there, really what Tanso requires at this point is kind of myself, a right-hand man in terms of somebody that can manage the build shop, then like a step down type of club maker that understands like all the sorting, things of that nature. And then from there, really a slurry of part-time people. Like I like to do the social media in most of the marketing outreach. And then, somebody kind of is just a fill-in that can kind of pack boxes, clean clubs, install shaft labels, things of that nature. So, in the summertime, it shouldn't be hard to find that kind of help. School's out. There's a lot of
Yep.
colleges around here. A lot of golf is huge here. I never thought it was going to be so big. And so one of the things I'm up against is I've only been here since October. So once I'm actually able to get out with the product, get to the golf course, I joined a really nice club here. So once I get out there, I'm sure things will start to piece together.
Wonderful. So if anyone listening, get your applications in.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, I can't thank you enough for donating your time. I know it's been a very stressful week. I hope that this has been a relaxing
Yeah, it's
time
been
for you
great.
to just kind of have a chance to take well, you did all the talking, so take a little bit of a deep breath and congratulations on the launch. Congratulations on getting to this step within the company. And as I said before, we're really excited to see where you're going to be able to take this.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Again, I appreciate the warm welcome and all the, nice things that have been said. And you guys are taking time out of your schedule, and it's just as valuable, if not more so, than mine. So I really appreciate that. Spread the word. And I think you guys, once the product starts to get in everybody's hands, I think you're going to be like, wow.
I can't wait. And so where can they find you? Where's the site? What's the site? What's the social media?
Yeah, so the site is Tanso golf.com, and the social media is the same. Currently, Instagram, and we're on the Meta platforms. That's really the only social media to do at this point.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Really looking forward to this, and excited to do the recap for this one as well.
Likewise, I appreciate you guys' time. You guys have a great day, or great evening,
You
rather.
too. Will do. Thank you, Eric.
Bye-bye.